Tonight, we are talking about something a lot of you guys have been asking us to cover on the show, student loan debt. It affects pretty much everyone I know. And if you're one of the 10 people it doesn't affect, congratulations on being a Kennedy. Student loans are crippling millions of people, many of them fresh out of college. Imagine starting a race, and then the guy with the starter pistol uses the gun to shoot you in the leg. The student debt crisis is so big, there's even a game show to help people with their loans.
Welcome to Paid Off. This is the game show dedicated to helping you pay off your student loans. For each correct answer, we'll pay you a percentage of your debt. If you get 8 correct, we'll pay you the whole amount.
This is a real show. They turned a national crisis into a game show. I can't wait to see how Howie Mandel solves the opioid epidemic. The best part of Paid Off is the tagline.
I know it's not everything, but I hope that helps take off the pressure for a little bit. I know it's not everything, but I hope it takes the pressure off for a little bit.
That's not a tagline. That's what a plastic surgeon says to someone after a chimp attack. I know it's not everything, but I hope it helps take off the pressure for a little bit. Now get out there and start dating, Scarface. In 2006, total student debt was under $500 billion. Now it's over $1.5 trillion, eclipsing both credit card debt and auto loan debt. Yeah, over 44 million Americans have student loans with a mean balance of over 30 grand and a median balance over 17 grand. And if you don't know the difference between median and mean, your student loans were truly a waste of money. Look, we asked our audience members to fill out a survey before coming to the show tonight, and there is over $6 million of student debt in this room alone. Look, don't worry, I'm not gonna collect on it. What if I did, though? We also asked you guys a bunch of other questions, and I learned a lot about all of you. This is all true, okay? 76% of you are single, so shoot your shot, okay? 17% of you have been to a Drake concert. I can tell by all the lineups. Yeah, I see it. Now, this part is shocking. 21% of you have completed a spin class in the last 30 days, and 23% of you are in favor of the death penalty. That's a lot of overlap, okay? I'm sorry, it's definitely the same people. You guys know SoulCycle's motto, execute on the bike and in the chair. It's dark. It's really dark, but you'll get the body of your dreams. Now look, we all know that student debt is a national crisis and college tuition is out of control, but I want to focus on what happens when you're actually trying to pay back your loans. Because student debt collection has become a multi-billion-dollar predatory industry that ruins lives, unless, of course, you're this couple.
So this is what happens when you pay off $103,000 of student loan debt. Woo!
It might seem crazy.
I bet Pharrell saw this and was like, I kind of wish they were still in debt. Come on, you just paid off 100 grand in student loans, and that is how you dance? You guys gotta give me that Price is Right energy, baby. Now keep in mind, Ryan just won the chance to play Plinko. The chance. Just the possibility, and he went ham. I love this clip so much. We actually tracked down Ryan. And guess what Ryan wanted to do with his Plinko money?
My plan after winning the $31,500 was to put it towards my student loan debt. I went to Penn State University, and now I am nearly $130,000 deep in student loans.
Did you personally pay the Sandusky settlement with $130,000?
One would think it with that amount, but no.
Real talk, did you like it?
Did I like my time at Penn State?
Yes.
Absolutely loved it. Would not change it for a thing.
Really?
We are Penn State. I'll say we are, you say Penn State. We are.
Penn State.
You got it.
That's not a slogan, Ryan.
It's our cheer.
You could do any school that way. We are University of Phoenix Online.
Okay, then.
One of the scariest things about student loans is you can't make any mistakes. Otherwise, you might face some of the most aggressive debt collection practices.
The state of Florida suspending the licenses of nearly 1,000 healthcare workers just because they're behind on paying their student loans.
What's the worst that could happen to you if you don't pay your old federal student loan? How about being arrested by the U.S. Marshal's Office?
I'm standing before the court with no rights read to me, no legal representation, and I'm being told that I owe $1,500 and just couldn't believe it.
If someone in a federal marshal's jacket handcuffed me and told me I owed him $1,500, I'd be like, oh, I get it. You're a stripper. Look, if someone owes $1,500, you don't send in SEAL Team 6. Look, a big reason why paying back student debt is so hard has to do with how student loans are managed. For a long time, the government partnered with banks to make low-interest loans to students. So if a student defaulted, the government was on the hook, not the banks. But that all changed in 2010.
For almost 2 decades, we've been trying to fix a sweetheart deal in federal law that essentially gave billions of dollars to banks to act as unnecessary middlemen. But I didn't stand with the banks and the financial industries in this fight.
Remember that guy, 2010 Obama? Obama cut out the banks, and students began borrowing directly from the government. And eventually, the Department of Education became the largest bank in America in terms of loans, which is shocking. Yes, that is the right response. It's like finding out Jo-Ann Fabrics is America's largest weapons manufacturer. Real talk, I wouldn't be surprised. Those stores are fucking huge. Like, you go in, you're like, hey, I'm looking for glitter. They're like, yeah, it's next to the Tomahawk missiles, aisle 42. Now, obviously, the Department of Education wasn't designed to be a massive bank, so they outsourced loan management to companies called loan servicers. Loan servicers collect your money, make sure you're paying on time, and explain all of your repayment options. Or at least that's what they're supposed to do.
Poor loan servicing is at the core of the problem for so many of these students who find themselves delinquent or in default.
The I-Team found more than 500 complaints against the National Loan Servicing Company, including a borrower in New Hampshire who described the repayment structure as financial terrorism.
Okay, calm down. You can't call loan servicers financial terrorists. Terrorists take responsibility for their actions. Even Bin Laden's ghost is like, hey man, own your shit, all right? Say you did it. To understand why loan servicers are so bad, we have to look at one of the worst.
One particular private loan servicer has had more complaints than others, Navient.
When I look and see a client coming from Navient, frankly, I cringe.
Navient is huge. It handles over $300 billion in student loans and 1 in 4 of all student borrowers. When it comes to screwing over borrowers, Navient is legendary. And it's not just because their logo looks like a corporation that harvests emotions in a young adult novel. If you can think of an evil thing, Navient has probably been accused of doing it. Fucking over military members? They settled a lawsuit after being sued for overcharging troops. Ripping off disabled people? They were accused of damaging the credit of disabled borrowers. In some cases, they've actually double charged them.
Michael's now paying off his $54,000 parent loan, but noticed an issue on his June bank statement.
They took $22.51 out of my checking account, and then they took it out of my savings account.
So he contacted the company managing the loan, Navient.
And they told me, okay, we realized the mistake, no.
When the money wasn't returned to his account, he called again.
I'm not rich, I'm disabled, I can't work.
He eventually got his money back, but Navient is so shitty, I wouldn't be surprised if we found out they invented nail teeth. No, this is a real thing, and it is fucking horrifying. Your fingernails shouldn't have gingivitis, okay? Navient has taken bad customer service to the next level.
Almost as a joke, I said, I can either have you guys lower my payments so I can make rent and then pay you, or I can live in my truck and make the full payments to you every month. And the woman on the phone, dead serious, told me, I don't want to tell you to have to live in your truck, but you might have to live in your truck.
Navient's professional advice was, you might have to live in a truck. Look at him. He can't live in his truck. He's already selling kombucha out of it in Williamsburg. There's not enough space. That call wasn't some isolated incident. Terrible customer service is at the core of companies like Navient. Listen to a former Navient employee describe her job.
What did you think was wrong with what you were expected to do there?
What I was expected to do was to provide inadequate service. Performing well meant keeping calls to 7 minutes or under.
Navient rushes through calls because they maximize profits by getting off the phone fast. At one point, Navient actually had a March Madness-style bracket for who could handle the most customers. What kind of sick people use a basketball tournament to financially fuck over college kids? Right. It's the NCAA, my bad. Now, focusing on speed meant that Navient often misled borrowers.
If I had a borrower call in and say, I have a question about the income-based repayment plans, you know, those were a long conversation. You're looking at tax returns, you're looking at family size. It might be easier for me as a representative to say, well, why don't I just put you in, you know, a forbearance instead?
Those borrowers were asking about an income-based repayment plan. It lets people with lower incomes have smaller monthly payments. Think of it like Hinge. It takes more time to fill out, but it's reliable. It's much simpler for Navient to put borrowers on loan forbearance. That's when you stop making payments temporarily, but you pay more interest later. Forbearance is like Tinder. It's quick and easy, but over time, you end up regretting it, and there are too many people from Arizona State on it. Racing through calls and putting borrowers in forbearance has added nearly $4 billion of interest to student loan debt. $4 billion, just in interest. And while Navient disputes that figure, the $4 billion claim was made in a lawsuit filed by the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, or CFPB. The CFPB is a government agency that protects people from predatory companies. In 2017, they sued Navient for, quote, failing borrowers at every stage of repayment. For a government agency, that is savage. It'd be like if on Top Chef, Padma Lakshmi said, pack your knives and go, fuck yourself, you worthless piece of shit. Enjoy cooking at Little Caesars for the rest of your life. At the time of the lawsuit, Seth Frotman was in charge of overseeing student loans at the CFPB. So I sat down with Seth to find out all the crazy shit happening to student borrowers.
What we found through consumer complaints, through horror stories we were hearing throughout the country, is that borrowers were being lied to by their student loan companies, by their student loan servicers, because it was in their financial interest to do so.
Well, can I just switch a loan servicer? Can I just go, I don't like Navient anymore, give me the other guy?
You have no ability to pick and choose who your student loan servicer is. The Department of Education, one of the nation's largest creditor, picks and chooses for you.
So it's like if you went to Kayak and the only available airline is Spirit?
I would argue it's worse than Spirit Airlines.
That's impossible.
No, it's not impossible. We're having millions of borrowers being driven into default. I think that's like worse than an extra baggage fee.
No, he's clearly never flown Spirit, okay? Their in-flight beverage is just somebody's flu breath in a cup. Look, Spirit Airlines doesn't even have seatbelts. You're just supposed to reach around and hold the person in front of you. You just strap in and pray. Navient loves making it sound like they're just looking out for students. This is their CEO, Jack Raimondi. Now, the thing about Jack is that he looks like a businessman created by an algorithm. And here he is, simulating human emotion in front of members of Congress.
Our experience with 12 million customers shows that borrowers who stay connected with this servicer are more likely to stay out of delinquency and default. Contact works. Let's encourage it.
Contact works. Let's encourage it. That sounds like an HR manual written by Dustin Hoffman. As much as Jack Raimondi wants us to think that Navient loves helping its customers, Seth Frotman would beg to differ.
We shouldn't sugarcoat this. This is a company that ruined millions of people's lives, from people who are trying to pay back their debt to literally disabled veterans.
This is on the Navient website. We are here to help you successfully navigate your loans.
So what's remarkable is that Navient, in federal court, argued they actually have no responsibility to help student loan borrowers.
But on their website, they say, we want to help you.
They've also argued in federal court that none of us should believe like what their website says or what they help borrowers, because that's all puffery.
That's all puffery is also the meanest thing anyone has ever said on the Great British Bake Off. So what I'm wondering is this. How did it get so bad? Student loans were never supposed to be this predatory. Student loans were supposed to help fuck with the Russians. I'm serious. Look, I know everyone is like, wait, why are we in space? Is Netflix pivoting to field trips? Not yet. The first student loan program was developed because America was losing the space race. In 1957, the Soviets successfully launched Sputnik. It was the first man-made satellite, and it was a really big deal.
CBS Television presents a special report on Sputnik 1.
The vital question that everybody is thinking about, why and how did the Russians beat us to the draw?
Right now, it's north of Auckland, New Zealand, and moving southeast. It will be, in 10 minutes, about 1,500 miles north of Middle America.
Of course we freaked out. The Russians had Sputnik, and we couldn't get a crayon to work. America needed scientists and functioning crayons. So in 1958, Congress passed a bill called the National Defense Education Act to fund higher education. It was a huge success. In 1959, there were 3.6 million students in college. Within a decade, that number doubled, and in 1969, we finally had enough film students to fake the moon landing. Student loan programs were intended to help people, not screw them over for life, but loan servicers are only part of the problem. The root of the problem is the Department of Education. They keep hiring shitty loan servicers. They're not protecting borrowers, and they also mismanage loan forgiveness programs. In some cases, the Department of Education has been so negligent, they are practically criminal. Take the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program. Congress passed it in 2007 to encourage people to go into public service, which sounds good in theory.
Here's how it works. You must have a federal direct or family education loan, commonly known as a FFEL loan. Then you have to work for 10 years at any nonprofit organization or for the federal, state, or local government and make 120 monthly loan payments.
If you met those requirements, the government would forgive the rest of your loans. Clean slate. In 2017, almost 30,000 people submitted applications to have their loans forgiven. But because of massive incompetence by the Department of Education, only 96 were approved. 96, that's 0.3%. Elizabeth Warren is more Cherokee, okay? Now remember, all right, these are people who spent 10 years of their lives in public service based on the promise that their country would return the favor. Congress tried to clean up this mess, but tens of thousands of people are still waiting for their loans to be forgiven.
Bill was 6 years into his student loan payments when he called Navient, then Sallie Mae, about the loan forgiveness program. Bill made 120 payments, about $130,000 worth on time, moves that should have freed him from the remainder of his balance.
I was told, well, I had the wrong loan, so I was denied. I'm going to have to reconsolidate my loans and pay on them for another 10 years until I'm 70.
That is horrible. Bill, like so many applicants, chose to work in public service and still ended up with crushing debt. It's not just that program. The Department of Education has been a mess for a long time, but it got straight up malicious under Trump after he appointed Betsy DeVos as Secretary of Education. Now, if you don't know, obviously some of you guys know, Betsy DeVos is a conservative activist with a $40 million yacht. In other words, exactly who you'd expect Trump to put in charge of schools. In 2 years, she has slashed protections for borrowers and blocked states from regulating loan servicers. At every turn, she has betrayed borrowers. She's supposed to be a lifeguard for students, not push their heads underwater. And it's not just me giving the department a bad performance review.
The U.S. Department of Education is being blasted in a new report from its Inspector General. The scathing report finds the Education Department's student loan unit failed to adequately supervise the companies managing those loans.
The department has not kept up with the level of attention it needs to pay to what is admittedly not a particularly catchy topic.
Not catchy? Yeah, I know. Try squeezing 20 minutes of comedy out of student loan debt. This report was huge because it basically confirmed that the Department of Education has known for a long time that loan servicers like Navient were screwing over students, and the Department of Education did next to nothing to stop them. Not only did it not penalize them, it actually gave them more business and has insisted that Navient specifically was not misleading borrowers. There's only one explanation for this. I've thought about this. Betsy DeVos is half human, half loan. She feeds on interest because it makes her stronger. And no one was there to stop her because not long after Trump appointed Betsy DeVos, he put his budget director, Mick Mulvaney, in charge of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. By the way, Mulvaney is now the acting White House chief of staff. He has played so many roles in the White House. He is the Tyler Perry of the Trump administration. That is terrifying. When he took over the CFPB, two things happened. He became Seth Frotman's boss, and he stopped the Bureau from going after predatory companies. Things got so bad, Mr. Puffery quit in protest.
You wrote a resignation letter to quit.
I did.
In your resignation letter, this is what you wrote. You have used the Bureau to serve the wishes of the most powerful financial companies in America. The damage you have done to the Bureau betrays these families and sacrifices the financial futures of millions of Americans in communities across the country. God damn, Seth. I would love to see you write a Yelp review.
Everyone thinks I'm crazy.
Oh, you're a fucking maniac. I used to work at Office Max, and when I quit, I just drop-kicked a printer.
I did. It was a Canon Inkjet 3620, and I kicked the shit out of it. Frotman went off on Mick Mulvaney, but Trump's TaskRabbit clapped back.
Yeah, I saw that letter. I saw that letter for the first time on, I think it was on USA Today. I was on an airplane, but I think he was more interested in getting his name in the paper.
First of all, who's trying to get into USA Today? It's the kids' menu of news. Was Frotman like, yo, you know how I'm gonna get big? I'm gonna be in every La Quinta Inn across the country. Look, from Mick Mulvaney to Betsy DeVos to this computer-generated stepfather, it is clear the deck is stacked against students. Most don't even have the proper information to navigate the system. After Seth Frotman quit, he started a nonprofit called the Student Borrower Protection Center to help crack down on predatory student loan companies. So I went back to Frotman to figure out what future borrowers need to know.
I think we need to paint a picture of how student loans impact incoming freshmen to schools. So say I'm a incoming freshman at UC Santa Cruz, right? I get to Santa Cruz, I'm a banana slug, freshman year's about to be turned. What do I need to know?
So you should know that you're getting screwed. I think you need to be making sure that the companies that are supposedly handling your loans aren't screwing you over. I think you need to make sure that when you're talking to your elected officials, you're telling them that they need to be going after companies like Navient.
I gotta talk to my elected officials?
You do.
Fuck.
You need to realize that once you leave school, you need to, like, be on top of some pretty horrific companies.
Even though I've accrued this crippling debt. I look cool though, right?
Most borrowers want nothing more than to pay back their loans. There are people who would kill just to be flat broke. Yeah. I understand. Look, the good news is this. 6 state attorneys general are now suing loan servicers. So if you think you're being taken advantage of by your loan servicer, contact your state AG. The federal government won't do anything, but they might. Student loans were supposed to be a way to invest in our citizens, reward public service, and flex on the Russians. But now, they've become a minefield of misinformation where debt can follow you for life. So if we're gonna have game shows about student loans, they should actually reflect how difficult it can be to repay your loans. A game show about the student loan system should feel more like this.
It's time for Debt Fog, the game show where one mistake can cost you everything. Here's your host, John Hodgman.
Hey, everybody. It's me again. Who's ready to Debt Fog? That's right. Let's go talk to our contestants. Alvin says here you're $60,000 deep in student debt. How's that feel?
I live in my Camry.
Oof. Very little human dignity at all, then. Kathleen, you're $190K in debt, and you're a veterinarian. That must be fun working with all those animals.
I mostly put them to sleep.
They gotta go sometime. It's a kindness, really. Folks, our next guest, Jeffrey, actually died last week. So please welcome his parents, Mark and Shannon. Hi, guys. So it says here you have a funny story you want to tell me about parkour? Oh, my mistake. That's how Jeffrey died. Oops.
It's been a hard time.
Yeah. And you got a private loan with no death discharge, so you now own your son's debt. Are you ready to play the game? Let's go. Number 1. If you're a Boilermaker, what university do you attend? Yes, Alvin.
Purdue.
That's absolutely right. $10,000 off your debt.
Oh, God.
Don't get excited, it's a very small start. Next question. For $15,000 this time. In the long term, is it better to be in an income-based repayment plan or forbearance?
Yeah.
Mark and Shannon.
We'd like to use our lifeline.
Of course, everyone gets a lifeline to call their loan servicer. Let's give them a ring.
Hello, this is Jack at EdLoan. How can I help you successfully navigate your student loan?
Is it better for me to pay off my debt with a forbearance plan, or what was the other one?
Income-based repayment.
Income-based repayment.
Forbearance. That's the best option. I would go with that.
Oh.
All right, guys, what do you think?
We're gonna go with forbearance.
I don't want to be the forbearer of bad news, but forbearance actually increases your interest over time. An income-based repayment plan would be more fiscally responsible, all of which is a very fancy way of saying, you're gonna get fucked. Sorry about your dead son. Next question, $20,000. Name 4 Ivy League universities. Okay, Kathleen.
Harvard, Yale, Princeton, and Brown.
Oh, yeah, you would think so, wouldn't you? But in fact, none of those colleges are actually the names of the band members of KISS.
That wasn't the question.
Yes, well, it looks like we changed the terms of your question without telling you. Oh no! What? Kathleen, you've gone over $200,000 in debt. Let's get Terry, our federal marshal, in here. Terry? Terry! Come on, Terry. Arrest that woman. Get her out of here. Oh, boy. Alvin, you're the only one left. You know what that means? You're the winner! That's right! We're paying off your entire debt. How does it feel, Alvin?
Oh, God.
Okay, time for me to talk. Thanks, everyone, for being here tonight. And, oh, excuse me, I'm getting some information from our processing center. Oh, Alvin, apparently we filed your paperwork wrong. You were never supposed to be here. We're taking the money back. That's right, sir. You are about to debt fucked. Debt fucked, debt fucked. Go on. Fuck, debt fucked. Get the fuck out of here.